I've said it before, but we don't measure our commitment to free speech with a dose of speech that we love. I don't say I support my favorite movie or my favorite TV show or my favorite book because I support free speech. That's just kind of a given if you enjoy that piece of work. We measure our commitment to free speech with a dose of speech that we hate. And if we are true in our claimed commitment to free speech, we'll say, oh, that's the worst movie I've ever seen, or the worst TV show, or the worst book. In fact, I think it was vile and disgusting and terrible, maybe even dangerous, but I still see value in its right to exist as free expression, because if that speech could be suppressed for arbitrary reasons, then so could speech I enjoy, including my own. And it's not easy to do that. It's not easy to accept that your personal hatred of something might not be as important as a higher value. It's tough to stay true to your values when doing so works against you personally. Often that difficulty leads us to scramble for a way to keep both, for a way to get rid of that thing you don't like while still claiming to uphold your principles. And one common way to do that is to redefine terms. Oh, well, I can be for free speech and still try to limit that speech I don't like if I just categorize that speech I don't like as something other than free speech. We hear this all the time when people say things like hate speech isn't free speech, even though it is. Or they'll say, well, it's not free speech because it's incitement to violence, or it's not free speech because it's fighting words. It's important that we knock down these pieces of dishonesty where they arise. The more exceptions you add to your definition of free speech, the less free your free speech is. I've already discussed incitement to violence, I've already discussed fighting words, but this week I heard a new exception, a new redefinition of terms. It's not free speech if it's anonymous. This claim coming from several CNN personalities regarding anonymous meme poster Han Asshole Solo and his viral Trump WWE meme on Reddit. CNN is facing intense criticism for threatening to reveal the identity of that anonymous online user, but to justify that stance, they are engaging in exactly the type of mental gymnastics I'm describing. On Brian Stelter's show, Daily Beast editor and CNN contributor John Avlin said free speech is predicated upon revealing your identity.
But John, they say it's just a joke. They're just joking.
Yeah, you know, the problem is when you have the responsibility of presidency, your ability to tweet out jokes about physically harming the free press is curtailed by common decency, if not common sense.
John,
and this is the larger problem. You've got folks, free speech is predicated upon the idea of owning your speech. When it's hidden, that is a complicating factor. When those things are intentionally amplified by positions of power, that's a major complicating factor that we need to confront. And the overall game that we really need to deal with is that it's designed to make civic debate indecent so that good people retreat because they don't see it as worthwhile.
And other CNN personalities have taken a similar stance. Michael Smerconish says the anonymous online user made himself a story, thus sacrificing his right to privacy, and that anonymity is a big problem in our political discourse.
You attract the attention of the president. You tout the fact that the president is using your work. You're now a story. And you sacrifice any right to privacy that you otherwise would have had. It's time to rein in the bad behavior, and nasty, anonymous comments are a big part of the problem. But they're one that we can address and one that we can solve.
Additionally, CNN political analyst Kirsten Powers says people do not have a right to stay anonymous so they can spew their racist, misogynist, homophobic garbage. Where are they getting this idea that a public identity is a necessary part of free speech? Particularly that first claim, that free speech is based upon revealing your identity. That claim is inconsistent with the philosophical basis for why we value free speech. It's inconsistent with the Supreme Court's protection of free speech. It's even inconsistent with CNN's own day-to-day operation. Let's take a look at these in order. To say free speech is predicated upon owning your speech or revealing your identity implies that a public identity is somehow the basis for free speech or a prerequisite for free speech, but that's not why we value free speech. Philosophically, we value free speech because it creates a marketplace of ideas, a market in which all ideas can compete freely, and through that competition, the best ideas will naturally rise. Variations of this metaphor are present across many writings, but notably in the work of John Milton, who influenced America's founding fathers in crafting the First Amendment and other constitutional liberty we enjoy today. To these thinkers, it doesn't matter who brings an idea to the market, it only matters if the idea is competitive in that market or not. And the only way we foster competition in the market is through ideas being freely exchanged. That thinking formed the basis for the American conception of free speech and our eventual constitutional protection for it. I'm not aware of the founding fathers speaking directly to the value of anonymity in free speech, but it's hard to imagine they didn't see it. Considering the Federalist Papers, which advocated for the ratification of the Constitution, and its countercase opposing ratification, were both published under pseudonyms, Publius in the case of the former and Federal Farmer in the case of the latter. Benjamin Franklin wrote under several different pen names in his lifetime, taking on roles ranging from the middle-aged widow Silence Dogwood to Alice Addertongue, a gossip queen who would dish the details on the celebrity rumors of the day. Ben Franklin was shitposting and memeing behind a screen name centuries ago. He just did it by quill and ink instead of by keyboard. So is free speech predicated upon revealing your identity? If so, that would be news to pretty much all of the thinkers who established the concept. It would also be news to the Supreme Court, which has repeatedly upheld the implicit right to anonymity in the First Amendment's protection of speech. The court has established legal standards, to be clear, but the court's reasoning offers insight into why we should value anonymous speech culturally as well. In the case of Talley versus California in 1960, the Supreme Court struck down a Los Angeles city ordinance banning anonymous public leafleting, noting, "Anonymous pamphlets, leaflets, brochures, or even books have played an important role in the progress of mankind. Persecuted groups and sects from time to time throughout history have been able to criticize oppressive practices and laws either anonymously or not at all." Later in 1995, the court expanded on the value of anonymous speech in the case of McIntyre versus the Ohio Elections Commission, striking down an Ohio law against anonymous political literature. Writing for the majority, Justice Stevens identified three major reasons why anonymity is a crucial component of free speech should the speaker choose to use it. Anonymity removes bias against the speaker. On occasion, quite apart from any threat of persecution, an advocate may believe her ideas will be more persuasive if her readers are unaware of her identity. Anonymity thereby provides a way for a writer who may be personally unpopular to ensure that readers will not prejudge her message simply because they do not like its proponent. Anonymity opens discussion by including speech that may otherwise be excluded. The interest in having anonymous works enter the marketplace of ideas unquestionably outweighs any public interest in requiring disclosure as a condition of entry, and anonymity provides safety from retaliation. The decision in favor of anonymity may be motivated by fear of economic or official retaliation, by concern about social ostracism, or merely by a desire to preserve as much of one's privacy as possible. Stevens wrote in summary that anonymity serves a vital role in the concept of free speech. Anonymity is a shield from the tyranny of the majority. It thus exemplifies the purpose behind the Bill of Rights, and of the First Amendment in particular, to protect unpopular individuals from retaliation and their ideas from suppression at the hand of an intolerant society. In other words, John Avlin and CNN got it entirely wrong. Free speech is not predicated upon revealing your identity. It is predicated upon the freedom to remain anonymous if you so choose. But it shouldn't surprise us that these claims from CNN aren't based on sound philosophy or principle. If they made claims based on sound philosophy or principle, if they actually believed that free speech is predicated upon owning your speech or revealing your identity, they probably wouldn't write anonymously sourced articles so poorly constructed that they are later retracted and all involved are forced to resign. In the case of sensationalist news stories, stories to suit an agenda, CNN says anonymity is an important mechanism to protect its sources. But in the case of a meme CNN doesn't like, well, then anonymity is just a complicating factor that shouldn't be protected. To be as generous with CNN as I can, I like it when a speaker stands by his or her speech, when a speaker makes his or her identity known. There's a certain bravery and sincerity and credibility in a person who's willing to say something controversial and attach a name to it. But that's not the basis for free speech. That's just a distinction between speech I like and speech I don't. And if that's all that's at issue, to borrow John Avlin's phrasing, free speech is predicated upon your respect for and protection of speech you don't like. Otherwise, you'll be a CNN-level hypocrite, scrambling for reasons why there are different rules for you than for others, holding others to standards you don't uphold yourself, and pissing everyone off in the process. Free speech is free speech, whether you like the message or not, and whether you like the messenger or not, including if the messenger is unknown. We do not shoot the messenger, even if he chooses to remain anonymous. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.